Welcome to another edition of the Injury to Recovery YouTube channel. I'm Greg, and this is Blaine from Recover Physical Therapy in Twin Falls. And this week, what are we going to be talking about, Blaine?
Knee arthritis.
Knee arthritis. All right. Well, does arthritis in your knees, does it impact everybody, young, old, or do you see it in certain patients usually?
It does not affect everyone. There's a genetic component to it.
Oh.
There's also some lifestyle things related to it. There's things you can do to avoid it. For example, not consuming a lot of sugar is a good way to avoid arthritis. Maintaining a healthy body weight is one of the best ways to avoid knee arthritis. And keeping your muscles strong is something we'll talk more about today.
Awesome. Well, so Blaine from Recover Physical Therapy in Twin Falls, we're going to be talking about it today, and should we get started?
Yep, let's do it.
Alrighty. So what do you need me to do here?
Okay, so I'll have you lay on your back there.
Okay.
And a great exercise for knee arthritis is if you keep one knee straight. So suppose he has arthritis in his right knee, which he has straight, and you're just going to lift that leg straight up in the air while you keep the knee locked nice and straight as you go up and down.
Point your toes like this?
It actually does not matter too much what you do with your toes,
Okay.
if we're focusing on arthritis here. And so the trick on this one is to keep your knee locked as straight as you can, and you should start to feel a bit of a strain in the front of your thigh and in the front of your hip. And this strengthens the quadricep muscles there in the front of your thigh. Keeping your hip strong is also an important thing to do if you want to avoid knee arthritis, because that provides a good foundation for your knees to function properly if your hips are strong.
Yeah, I start feeling it.
Yep,
About there.
You should feel it burn right there.
Okay.
And then Greg, I'm going to have you roll on your side and face me, and you're going to actually do the same thing, but just laying on your side this time around.
Okay.
So you're going to keep that leg straight, and you're just going to lift it up in the air, up and down. And this actually focuses more on the hip than it does the knee, but it's an important foundation to have to avoid knee arthritis. So you probably should feel this burning a little bit inside your hip after you do
Right about here.
5 or 10 reps. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Also a great knee arthritis exercise.
Is there a timing element to this?
You're actually going at a very good pace, just kind of a nice, slow, steady pace.
Okay.
People generally tend to rush through them a little bit faster than they should, and so maybe up and down every 3 seconds or so for every repetition.
Okay.
Just don't rush through it. And then the last one we'll do on this mat is I'll have you lay on your back, and I'm just going to have you bridge up and down. So this is a common low back exercise, but I'm also recommending it for people with knee arthritis because it also strengthens your hamstrings and the back of your thigh. So it hits your glutes, your hamstrings, and your low back kind of all together, which you're probably starting to feel at this point.
No, I've done too many for you. It takes me a little while to get my back to start working. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
And if this is too easy for you, one way to make it harder is you can hold one foot up in the air, and while the other foot's planted, and you'll feel more of a strain on the back of your thigh.
Now, if I'm going back to our right knee, do I need to use my right knee up in the air while I'm doing this, or does it matter? I should have the right knee down, right?
Yeah, you're focusing on the knee that has arthritis is the one you want to have planted on the floor. But I would actually recommend doing it on both sides just to keep yourself symmetrical and keep the other knee healthy as well.
Okay. So holding on.
Yep, so a slightly more advanced knee exercise are just simple squats, and Greg is holding on to something there for support, which is a good way to start out. Because for a lot of people with arthritis, they start squatting and it can be a little bit painful. So I would recommend starting with some upper body support. So a good place to do this is you can hang onto a railing, or you can hang onto your kitchen sink is a good place to do it. And as you get stronger, you'll want to do this exercise about every other day. Give yourself a little break in between. But as you get stronger, you can start to add the repetitions, and you can also start to dip down a little bit deeper as your knee tolerates. And some people often ask, like, how deep should I go, or how many repetitions should I go? And the answer to that's a little bit different for everyone. But a good rule of thumb is that you want to go enough that you strain and feel yourself exerting a little bit. There should be some challenge, but you don't want to do so many that you blow up your knee pain. And as you start doing this exercise, it might be a little uncomfortable initially, and that's okay, just within reason. But as you do more repetitions, as the days and weeks go by, you should notice you start to tolerate more with less pain.
What about single leg? Do we do that as well?
Yes, once that gets easy, you can advance to some single leg. And again, you can start shallow, and as the strengthening process continues, you can start to go deeper. A common myth with knee arthritis is that people think of it as wear and tear of the cartilage. And there is a component of that with really advanced cases of arthritis. But for more mild and moderate cases, it's more of a component of inflammation in your cartilage. And so people have this myth in their mind that their cartilage is all beat up and they shouldn't move it or strain it, or they might make it worse and tear it up more. And that's actually not true. And so what your cartilage actually needs is, it needs to have some strain, because in some ways it kind of functions like muscle does, where when you put a strain on the cartilage, that does help to regenerate it somewhat. Maybe not completely like it was when you were, say, 20 years old, but there is some, the arthritis is somewhat reversible.
Okay.
But it does need a strain. And so a common myth that we see with arthritis is people say, well, I'm not going to run anymore because that's going to beat up my knees. And for a lot of people, what they may actually need to do is to start running.
Really?
Yeah. So that is a common myth in the knee arthritis world.
Nice. All right.
Okay.
What's next?
So for this, we'll put it on your right ankle here. And so another good knee arthritis exercise is this is a resistance band, and so these can be purchased quite cheaply online. And this is a kind of rubber tubing. And a lot of people also have like this the bands. It's like a roll of toilet paper that you cut off. But if you put that on your ankle, and then I'm going to put a little bit of resistance on this, and then Greg, I'm going to have you just kick your knee until it locks out all the way straight, and then comes back down. And so this is an open chin exercise, so your foot is not planted. And you should feel a pretty good strain in the front of your thigh as you kick your foot up and down.
Yeah, it's starting to burn pretty quick, actually.
Yeah, you don't need to do a whole lot of these before you start to feel that. But if, for example, we showed squats in the previous slide, if squats are too painful, this would be a good one to start with. And if this is too painful, you can even do it without the band at all, just do it against gravity. And that's a good place to start until you can start to tolerate some resistance. And then the next one is just the opposite. So I'm going to take the resistance off, and then we'll swing that through. And then you can attach this to the leg of a table or something, and put some resistance on it, and you're just going to pull his foot back under the chair. And this works the opposite muscles. It works the hamstrings on the back of the thigh. So also a great way to strengthen the knee.
Okay, and then, so I'm thinking about this, doing it at home. If I want my own home gym, I can just get normal rubber bands or bands and hook them to my couch or whatever.
Yeah.
Have a friend or a family member hold it for me.
Yes, those are all good options. And some of them, like these ones we just purchased online, and they're quite expensive, and they come in a kit, and they have these little attachments that are easy to hook onto things. You could also, most people are familiar with, I'll show it for the video real quick, but most people are familiar with these types of bands. So this can also just be tied around your ankle. So you can also purchase these types of bands, and you can just tie these around these are tieable, so you can tie it around your ankle on one end, and the other end you can have someone hold it, or you can tie it around to some type of anchoring point.
Okay.
So this last one is probably the most advanced exercise we show today. It's called a lunge. And so you just put one foot a nice big step in front of the other, and then the foot that's in back, you just gently drop the knee down. And Greg is doing a good job keeping his body nice and straight as he dips down. He's not leaning way forward. And so this puts a pretty good strain on his left knee. And again, you'll want to do these on both sides. So once you switch legs, and then this will challenge your balance as well. So if you have compromised balance, you can do this next to a kitchen counter or the back of a chair. And or if it's too challenging, because for a lot of people that have, say if people who are elderly, or if they've had knee arthritis for a long time, they're probably not going to be able to just drop down and do a lunge like this. But if you hang onto the back of a chair, so there's a more modified, slightly easier way to do it with his hand on a chair, gives him some more balance, and gives him a little push with his hand so it doesn't put quite as much strain on the knees. So ideally though, you want to get to the point where you can do a pure lunge without hanging onto a chair, but if you're not there yet, you can start with the chair.
Well, Blaine, thanks for talking about knee arthritis today. Any last comments that you wanted to share with us?
You're welcome, happy to do it. The last thing I would say is a lot of people just don't know how hard they should exert themselves. There's that balance. You need to push yourself hard enough that you're exerting yourself, but not so much that you make the pain worse, because both are possible. If you don't put some type of strain on your knee muscles, they won't get stronger, and your knee arthritis pain won't get better. But if you do too much too soon, then you could potentially make the pain worse. And people, sometimes they do that and they get discouraged and they think there's no hope for them. So the trick is really just to start out with the lighter exercises that we showed you, like starting out with the leg lifts are usually quite painless. And then as those get easier, you can start with the squats while you're hanging onto something. And just start with 10 reps is kind of a good rule of thumb to start with. Once that gets easier, or if you do that and the next day you feel fine, then you can add some more. It's okay to feel a little bit of discomfort during the exercise, so you might feel a little bit of that knee arthritis while you're doing them. A little bit is okay. You don't want to do so much that after you're through with the exercise that your pain is really exacerbated. So if that's the case, you may need to back off and start with some more easier exercises or fewer repetitions.
And obviously, if you continue to have that pain, we need to talk to a medical professional and get a consultation of some sort, right?
Yeah, if these don't go well for you, if you don't notice you can make progress with these exercises, then you should talk to a physical therapist, yes.
Sounds good. Well, thank you very much for watching the Injury to Recovery YouTube channel. Again, thanks to Blaine and Recover Physical Therapy for helping us out with this video today. And thanks. We'll see you next week.
Yep, thanks, Greg.